तो लेफ्टिनेंट अर्जुन चौधरी जी, आपका स्वागत है सर। सबसे पहले मैं जो हमारी ममता मैम है, आई विल कॉल अपॉन टू द ममता चौधरी मैम टू प्लीज इंट्रोड्यूस द आवर टुडेज एक्सपर्ट, एमिनेंट एक्सपर्ट, लेफ्टिनेंट अर्जुन सर। ममता मैम।
Thank you, sir. A very good morning to all. On the behalf of GPC Barmer, I am welcoming Lieutenant Arjun Choudhary.
Thank you.
Today, we are very honored to have Lieutenant Arjun Choudhary with us. He is Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Cyber Security in Sardar Patel University of Police and Criminal Justice at Jodhpur. His area of research are information security and privacy, cyber security, police implementation, cloud computing and security, ISMS auditing. His two papers related to the e-governance and cyber security are recently published in a renowned journals. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD in cloud computing and cyber security area. Today, Lieutenant Arjun will help us to understand how we can secure our desktops, mobile and emails, and he will also explain us how we can detect fake news and misinformation. Now, I will welcome Lieutenant Arjun to take the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's an honor that Mamta ma'am is here and Prashant sir, and I'm really thankful to the whole team, especially Prashant sir and Principal GPC Barmer, to invite me and to provide me this opportunity so that I can just interact with all the faculties over here. And Prashant sir, I suppose my voice is loud and clear? Yes, sir. Thank you. To tell you a little bit, Mamta ma'am has also been one of my colleagues during my PhD time here at Jodhpur MBM Engineering College. And today we are going to have a session over the topic which has been a very relevant and required topic for the current time being for everyone, not only for the faculty members or for the people who have been actually indulged with the technological aspects. But yes, because of this COVID time, everyone is like nowadays being forced to use the technology, which is going to be the integral part of the coming days of our education sector itself. So without wasting much time, I'll initiate my presentation over the topic itself. I would request to the organizers and to the participants here that whenever you feel any queries, you please put the query as soon as possible, because that would be the better way, because eventually through that only we can make the session quite interactive and fruitful for all of you here. Okay, so I think like everyone is okay with the English, or shall I use English Hindi mix as per the convenience?
So it's up to your convenience, sir. We are comfortable to both.
So I can be also into the Mawardi, that's fine. But being this FDP into the national standard, we'll be just initiating our presentation, and as per the requirements and the discussions, we'll be just shifting to the English or Hindi or the bilingual way. So the topic today is basically the desktop, mobile, email security and fake news and misinformation detection, first of all. See, today when we are talking about these things, eventually like desktop, mostly people are interacting or doing their work online, and eventually during this COVID time itself, we'll see that everyone is forced to use the things from the technical aspects itself. Mobile phone does carry by most of the people across the globe itself, and we are seeing that there is a huge rush for just subscribing new mobiles. And when you're talking about the mobile phone, we usually see that everyone is carrying their very vital and very personal information. Sir, if you can just stop the mic of the people, that would be better. Yeah, I've done it. Thank you, sir. So when we are talking about the mobile, it is something like kind of a personal assistant. Earlier it was known as PDA, that is personal digital assistant. But now we are able to see that everything what we have been doing, what we are going to do for the tomorrow, the mobile phone is aware right now. And when we are talking about the communication channels, the email stands the topmost into that category itself. And eventually, like most of the communications, most of the notice, most of the orders, when we are talking about an education industry or any other industries, usually email stands out because eventually it is the swift method and quite a secure method to just communicate between two different entities itself. And last but not least, that is the fake news, and we can see that this is again a bit of threat to the humanity itself. And eventually, like right now, if you're talking about this particular thing, it's a very high time when we are talking about the different states. Elections are onto the at the time itself, and eventually, like the fake news plays a very vital role in just like spreading or misspreading the information among the voters or the participants of that particular vote system itself. And eventually, like fake news is not only related with that thing. There are like various instances where we are actually attached with that particular fake news somehow or one way or another into the regular life of ours. So without wasting time, we'll just discuss the basic idea that why the cyber security is important. First of all, we need to understand that why we are just discussing the security of the cyber world itself. Because eventually, like without understanding this basic idea, we'll not be able to make out that how we are going to secure our laptops or the desktops itself. So like when we are talking about the cyber security, first of all, the information is a new gold right now when we are talking. And while we are just discussing the things, eventually like the new information is coming into the cyber world itself. And nowadays it is not only being created by the only the writers or the authors itself. Eventually there are machines, there are setups, there are devices through which we are actually being generated a lot of data. And you won't believe like for the last humankind, the civilization time itself, the maximum amount of the data has been just generated in the last 5 years down the line itself. And eventually when we are talking about the cyber criminals, what does they want actually? Because eventually like everything is nowadays online. So like when we are talking about the money part, everything like related or pertaining with the money, like your ID cards, your credit cards, your medical insurance, your social security numbers, or your bank ID, probably your user IDs and passwords of the bank credentials, or your mail IDs, because eventually like these are the entry points through which the actually the cyber criminal or the perpetrator can enter your network itself and eventually can get away with your money itself. Every day, usually like being from a police university, we usually have to have certain cases according to the the person's request. Eventually like डेली मुझे जैसे केसेस के कॉल्स आते रहते हैं कि सर मेरा पैसा चोरी हो गया एंड इवेंचुअली लाइक there are certain instances like eKYC and certain instances where the even the OTP was never being asked, and even though the money has been gone. And eventually when we are talking about the money, this is just a bit of numbers right now, because eventually like we are actually accessing and managing our accounts or the financial accounts with the help of our mobile phones or the laptops using the cyber world itself. Earlier days, like we were like limited to the branch level, and eventually like for the our home branch was one of the most important place where we used to go other than the temples itself, if I am not wrong. Yeah. So even like nowadays there are not only the basic banking financial organizations are there. Eventually like nowadays when we are talking about, people have invested heftily into the finance or the share markets and sometimes in the cryptocurrencies as well. And there are certain people who have been using the credit cards or some other methods, like nowadays we are able to buy the gold and the silver into the electronic formats as well. So eventually this is again the money which is again just being into your accounts because of your user ID and the passwords itself. So that is the basic level of the defense what we are having at our end, or being provided from the service provider where we are going to subscribe ourselves. So cyber criminals actually use the ransom, probably like corrupting the disk or disabling the networks itself, and eventually forcing out the user to just spill out the required amount of money, or sometimes the required amount of you can say extortion money itself. And eventually, like, not only the cyber criminals are, putting a part into this cybersecurity war across the world itself. There are certain part of the governments across the world which actually wants to work into that arena, and eventually, like, the nation is again one threat actor which is playing a pivotal role. I hope like everyone is aware about the right now, like the Ukraine is under the attack across the world itself. You probably, if you search on the Google itself by today itself, you'll see that a lot of people across the Ukraine and a lot of government websites are being defaced on the Ukraine side itself. And this has not been the first instance where a particular nation is under attack. The WannaCry ransomware or the other earlier ransomwares were just a particular, the stage where we can look out. And earlier days like South Ossetia and some other parts of the world which are related with this particular kind of attack. Even the USA was not like untouched with those kind of cyber attacks itself. Like very recently, like a ransomware attack was hosted on pipeline which was actually carrying some gasoline in a northern side of the US itself, and that particular operation was halted because of the ransomware attacks. We'll see that what are the ransomware in the coming slides itself. But yes, definitely there are the nations which are also playing a part in the threat actor itself. Because, but yes, what does the governments want? That's again a pivotal question here. Because eventually, like when we are talking about the government, they also want some information. So there may be some espionage, there may be some traitors which are selling out the information or the very crucial information related to the government. Like when we are talking about the Jodhpur or the Barmer region or the Jaisalmer region, these are very near to the border line with the Pakistan, which is our neighbor country, but yes, again a hostile one. So eventually, like there may be a lot of traders which would be selling out our crucial information to the neighbor country and the competitors of our nation itself. And this information may proves to be very vital, and eventually, like you might have seen the case of the Abdul Qadri, who used to be a nuclear scientist, and eventually sold out the information to the certain nations like South Korea or some other nations, through which actually the technology transfer was possible. But eventually, like the nation never agreed on that part. But probably that particular person actually ported out the information and created the knowledge transfer, which was neither possible by the country nor by the individual itself. But yes, because of the traitor or particular the information was transferred. There may be some corporate secrets when we are talking about agencies like it's been like 3 or 4 years down the line, but it was into the news. You might have remembered DRDO computers were hacked, where actually they were designing the Agni missiles. So the layout, the brief plans, what actually the missiles makes it a unique one, was actually like hacked by the Chinese counterpart itself. There may be some business plan for the certain sectoral development in every part of the nation itself. Like when we are talking about Rajasthan, very recently we had some investment Rajasthan summit, which actually played a very vital role in bringing up some new industry to the Rajasthan because of our peculiarity by providing the land or like other natural resources. And when we are talking about the operations or the critical infrastructure part, again the government would be quite trying to secure, and sometimes like the other counterpart would be trying to just outrage or probably disrupt that particular service, which are hello. Yeah. So, like there may be some critical infrastructures which would be like electricity, the banking, the news or communication channels. So, even if I'll just give you the name, like the water resources, probably what happens like if you are just taking a bath or just trying to, create food into your mess or the kitchen, and you found out that there is no water supply, and then eventually like uh, this has been found out that probably the water resources have been hacked, And because, most of the resources or the critical infrastructure are being handled with the help of SCADA systems. SCADA is supervisory control and acquisition of data systems. And eventually, that systems are being handled with the help of computers, and thus giving away the information to the other people if they are not being secured. And SCADA system does have their own weakness. That is, like, if you have installed the SCADA system certain level itself, you cannot stop it because of the crucial nature of that particular department or that particular critical infrastructure. Like, what happens if I'll stop the SCADA systems, and eventually, like, the water supply which has been managed with the help of the computer systems has to be done manually, because probably, like, it will take a day or probably a couple of days to just manage the resources manually now, because eventually, like, everything was operationalized with the help of computers. So somehow these particular systems provide us the facility, but somehow giving away a particular loophole or a nooks into the corners when we are just trying to upgrade those systems. Because probably when we are talking about the Jodhpur region, there is a SCADA system installed into the electricity power supply offices itself. And then if you'll inquire, you might be, like, आश्चर्यचकित होंगे आप, probably, like, these systems are 10 or 15 years old, and eventually, like, they needs to be updated, they needs to be patched, but yes, we cannot do it because eventually while doing it, it will require to shut the SCADA systems down, and we need to check also that how they are going to now respond based on these patches and upgradations. So that is again a very crucial nature work itself. So that's the weakness here, what we are going to face here. And these weaknesses are being exploited by some other perpetrators, probably the nations. And again, there is very important aspect, which actually there are some nations which usually utilize this thing. And it's again a very, WMD, weapon of mass destruction. Usually, like, the biased news or the fake news. Eventually, with the help of that, you can just destroy a person's life or the image or the reputation within no time itself. And eventually, like, if you अभी जैसे मैं एक simple example आपको देता हूँ. Yeah, probably this news was hosted by Times Now, where they actually started discussing about very, ज्वलंत मुद्दा था ये बेसिकली, अगर मैं कहूँ, और थोड़ा सा कम्युनिटी वाइज ये एक इमोशंस को रेज करने वाला था, that every particular girls are being like kind of a card, rate card was given that yes, if there is a Punjabi Hindu girl, for that you need to pay around 6 lakh rupees, and eventually, like, lot of things, kind of these rate cards were floating earlier into the WhatsApp or some other social media channels. But probably the Times Now just got this news probably from certain channel, and they thought of creating a particular news out of it. But eventually they never verified it, that this kind of raid card was actually a hoax, or probably a sometimes just a miscreant deed from a particular perpetrator itself. But yes, we need to be aware, we need to be careful enough while just spreading the news, these kind of news. Probably you all would be agreeing that very recently, when being a government employee or probably the academic person, you might have received certain news or the letter into your WhatsApp or the Telegram chat itself, that probably, like, central government has again withdrawn the DA charges, and then eventually, like, without verifying it, we started sharing it among our friends or relatives itself, which again gives a confusion to the government, probably some other people, that yes, this has been done again because of the corona time, because these are very crucial and very emotionally attached time, when any news which is related with our careers, which is related with our finance
Arjun sir,
strength itself. Pardon?
hope your screen is not shared now.
Yeah. I was just trying to see the faces of the people who have been, like, into the meeting itself. That's why I just switched the app itself. Otherwise, it's not like that. Okay. So, these kind of informations actually being transferred on a regular basis, sometimes from an individual, sometimes from a particular activist group, and sometimes from the government or the nations itself. There are again different hidden motives regarding the information when we are talking about these kind of things. And when we are talking about the hackers, what does they want actually? Hackers is kind of a group of people who would be having certain set of ideology, and they want to go ahead and disrupt the services being provided by a certain targeted group itself. So like something like they want to deface the web pages, sometimes disable the operations or disable the services which are being provided. And when we're talking, sometimes as an individual, we might be also indulge in these kind of activities, but we are not aware. Like I'll just state two examples. Like one is related with the IRCTC website itself. Like when we're talking about the IRCTC website, uh, usually like when you want to develop a certain tickets or book a certain ticket in IRCTC, and you are not able to get the tickets on a regular basis, probably you will try on 10 o'clock in the morning, because that is a time when you actually can book the Tatkal tickets. But 5 years ago, when we were doing these kind of activities, probably the IRCTC servers were not strengthened enough to provide you that facility, because eventually, like the servers were having the capacity of probably 10 lakhs people at a time. But seeing the population, seeing the demand and supply, there was always a situation when the 10 o'clock, whenever you're trying to access that particular website, it is like not available, or probably it is be available only for certain group of people, because eventually at that moment of time you have just started a DDoS attack over that application itself. Probably like it is able to handle the request of 10 lakh people, and right now at 10 o'clock, probably more than 15 lakh or 20 lakh people are just simultaneously trying to access the basic index page or the login page of the website of IRCTC. Somehow, when we are talking about these thing again, when we are trying to fill up the certain forms in a government agencies or some recruitment time, usually like we Indians are known for IST, that is Indian stretchable time, instead of Indian standard time. We usually like tends to fill up the form on the last date itself, and eventually thus again giving the feeling of DDoS kind of attack to that particular service provider or the website itself. So these are the things we actually doing unknowingly, but yes, these are there. Okay. So when we are talking about the history of the cybersecurity, there may be like a surveillance state. Can anyone care to explain that what particular state, or probably the state I am here referring as a nation itself, what nation is like indulge in these kind of activities on a regular basis? Care to explain by anyone? If you have any example of any surveillance state or the nation who actually indulge very much into putting themselves to know
Korea,
that
basically.
what Korea, definitely, that's right, absolutely correct, sir. Or you can just also mention the China or some other nations where people have been indulged by the government side that yes, whatever they are searching, whether they are being searched by the government side also or not. And believe you me that this is not only of a particular certain nations, even the nations are being forced to do that thing. That is the basic necessity of current time. Why so? Because eventually, like when we are talking about these things, there is a particular threat which is usually being, specified by the information security domain experts. That is the insider threat. I hope everyone is aware about the insider threat. Sorry.
Basically, disgruntled employees is a kind of that.
Yeah, we can say, or we can say any person who wants to be a greedy person, probably like, or sometimes like if you are a disgruntled citizen itself. Like I hope everyone has watched the movie Wednesday. Like there was a particular person who was like disgruntled with the setup of the government, and he started doing certain things which he was not supposed to do. But yes, nowadays the government is putting their extra efforts to look out for those kind of people, to just be ready in the case of any eventualities. Like I hope, like Prashant sir, this session are not being recorded right now, so that I can
No,
discuss the.
it is being even also, streamed also simultaneously, recording
Okay,
and
that's
even, onto our official YouTube channel
channel
also.
itself.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So I'll keep that thing in mind itself while talking about certain nations. But yes, definitely. Thank you, sir, for providing me the information. But yes, definitely, when we are talking about these things, you know, like if you want to search for a particular recipe to how to create a bomb, it's again a like increasing threat for the nation itself. So the nation agencies, the law enforcement agency would want to learn more about you, what your activities have been there. So eventually, like it's a need of ours to identify these kind of people who have been doing these kind of activities. If you'll search on Google or some other search channels regarding certain restricted keywords, because eventually every nation wants to just safeguard their resources and the boundaries or the civil infrastructure itself. And when we are living in this particular era when the physical boundaries are of no limit, because eventually, like right now, if this link has been just hosted and provided by the Prashant sir to me and being streamed on YouTube, probably like the person who are sitting across Pakistan or Taiwan or North Korea or South Korea, they can also listen to us. And eventually we have been speaking into the international language, that is the English language. So again, it plays a very important role that these kind of things should be treated on a utmost higher security level itself. So usually, like I can say some instances like if you'll just start searching about the certain restricted words like bomb, machine guns, AK-47, AK-55, ransomware. If you create a certain trade, probably one day you'll be greeted by some law enforcement agencies at your home, because eventually you have been trying to get some information which is of a restricted nature, which is like not only being agreed upon the governmental side, but probably the average citizen would agree on those kind of things. So that is again an important aspect. So whenever we are doing, and there is a classical case study which I'm going to discuss in the fake news time. And again, it will give you a particular idea that how much people can go deeper into your individual life, and then with a single keystroke can destroy your life itself. That's the thing here. And when we are talking about the information warfare, this is kind of a war. When we are talking about the war, this is not like we are going to fight a war with the help of some atomic warfare or some other missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles. Nowadays, with the single news, you can destroy the nation's identity. Like probably like if someone starts writing from some other part of the world that yes, probably our honorable PM Modi ji is indulged in a sex scandal or some other unlawful or unrecognizable trait of a society. Eventually, like some people or a part of people, when they are seeing without verifying, they started sharing that information within no time. Because nowadays, it is not only possible with the help of the newspapers. Nowadays, we have a lot of social media channels. And again, like it is based on your media influencers. Probably like you might have heard about the current Twitter hack, when there was a 17-year-old guy who actually get hold of some tokens from the Twitter and posted on some 144 different media influencers. Simply 144. I'm talking about the 144, or probably the number was 114. I'm not really good at the numbers, memorizing the numbers, but yes, this much accounts he was able to hack. And can you believe how much he was able to influence? Pardon? मतलब मैं ये मान के चलता हूँ 100 से ज्यादा यूजर्स चल मानते हैं, 100 से ज्यादा यूजर्स में उसने कोई इंफॉर्मेशन डाली, वो कितने लोगों तक गई? Probably, any idea? It was able to reach more than 20 million people in a single second itself. And simply क्या डाला उन्होंने? कहा कि भैया philanthropist मैं कर रहा हूँ, like मैं ओबामा की बात कर रहा हूँ, बराक ओबामा who used to be the United States president. एलॉन मस्क की बात कर रहा हूँ, जेफ बेजोस की बात कर रहा हूँ, probably प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की बात कर रहा हूँ, probably सचिन तेंदुलकर की बात कर रहा हूँ. These are the people who are actually the influencers or the role models of the society itself, which are being followed by like n number of different people. You know, today newspaper, you could have related like Virat Kohli has earned more than 178 crores with the help of ads. What happens if Virat Kohli says probably the Bonvita is good? So the sales of Bonvita would rise like anything. So this particular hacker, what does he do? He actually wrote a particular tweet in a different way on each these personalities that yes, whosoever would be sharing and donating the Bitcoin, which is again a cryptocurrency, onto this wallet address, I will share the same amount for the philanthropy. Philanthropy मतलब समाज और परोपकारी कार्यों के लिए मैं करूंगा. And then, you know, within next 1 or 2 hours, the guy was able to get more than $118,000 amount. Simply एक न्यूज डालने से उसने $1,18,000 कमा लिए. डॉलर को मल्टीप्लाई करिए 70 से, you'll have into the Indian currency itself. So that's kind of the thing what you can do with a single keystroke itself. And you know, when you're talking about crimes, it is again on a rise, and hacktivism is there, vandalism is there. People have been doing it for the experimental purpose also. Experimental matlab probably like everyone wants to create a certain shortcut of creating certain money. अभी बहुत recently आपने सुना होगा ये दरवाजे particular malware which was known as Mirai, है ना? Mirai was the malware which was actually exploiting a particular vulnerability into the Linux based access systems, and it was actually having the exploitation of by default user ID and passwords, and thus creating a DDoS kind of structure into the whole internet itself. And probably because of that, 1.2 Tbps based DDoS attack was done on GitHub itself. So some people, what they did, like yes, they are having certain Mirai kind of service bought by the dark world, and they created their own service just to get money out of it. And then they targeted a certain service and then mentioned into the mail that yes, if you'll be able to give me this amount of money, and probably like I'll just stop the DDoS attack. Since like all our faculty here, I hope DDoS or DOS, there is a difference between that. Although there is a minute difference in the spelling, that is only of D. But DOS is something like targeting a particular service from a single location or a single or identifiable locations. DDoS matlab distributed denial of services hai. Matlab the service would see the request probably in a legitimate manner. So that's again the issue here. So people actually are not able to identify whether these resources or the requests which are being fetched or done are coming from legitimate resources. I mean, eventually, like these kind of experiments plays a very huge price for the new upcoming services. And abhi dekhiye aap, when we are talking about the cryptocurrencies, just hold on a second. Sorry. When we are talking about the cryptocurrencies, which is of a new hotshot topic, आप देखते हैं कि नए-नए प्लेटफॉर्म्स बन रहे हैं, नए-नए इनिशियल कॉइन ऑफरिंग्स हो रहे हैं. And believe you me, right now, more than 5,000 different cryptocurrencies are there in the market, which is like recognized right now. Other than that, like everyone is able to create their own cryptocurrencies and NFTs. अपने अपने अलग अलग अपना खुद का एम्पायर खड़ा कर लिया. देख पहले हम अलाउद्दीन खिलजी हिस्ट्री में पढ़ते थे कि पर्टिकुलर जो शहंशाह हैं या जो राजा हैं उन्होंने अपनी करेंसी निकाली. But nowadays everyone is free to just host their own currencies. But yes, South Korea, North Korea kind of the organizations like APTs are there, advanced persistent threats, which are kind of a government supported organizations. They actually hack those particular new upcoming coin channels and eventually get away with more than billions of dollars from these cryptocurrencies itself. So moving on further, when we're talking about the different hackers or people, what are those people? Actually, like when we are talking about crackers, these are computer savvy programs and create some certain attack softwares. If you'll just go into the dark web is something like when we are talking about the internet is here. but the dark web is like here. This is the water level. If I am saying this is kind of a glacier. Glacier आप सब जानते हैं, है ना, हिमखंड है बहुत बड़ा. तो ये आपका इंटरनेट है, and this is the dark world itself. So that's the level, and eventually, like, most of the people can just hide their own identities, and eventually they can write certain attack softwares, scripts, and eventually they can sell it out, and they can earn money out of it with the help of untraceable cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum or some other currencies. And for sale, like, it is not only the attack softwares, probably the credit card information, medical insurances, identification of the malwares. A question again, quick question to the audience here. What can be a possibility, like, if someone is sharing your medical information onto the dark web, what they can get away with the information? क्या होता है? और हम बात करते हैं, चलिए, जब तक मैं क्वेश्चन आपको दे रखा है, मतलब दिस इज समथिंग लाइक नोन एज PII और मेडिकल PII, है ना. अगर हम क्राइम वेयर या अटैक किट की बात करते हैं तो इट लाइज इनटू द $1,000 or $2,000 itself. Like, anyone can go onto the dark web and start buying these things with the help of some other way currencies or so. But yes, like, यहाँ इन्होंने examples दे रखे हैं. I can give you the examples into the Indian currency also. Like, in only 1,000 rupees, you can go onto certain part of New Delhi or Mumbai, and you can get hold of more than like 50 lakh people credit cards information, and eventually, like, that is like a very basic one.
अटेंडेंस आपके माइक भी ऑन है, आप चाहें तो
yeah, definitely. So my question was again, like, when we are saying dark web is the place where the people usually sell the credit card or the medical insurance or medical information related with a particular person, how does it be a very important information eventually? Like, मैं आपको एक simple example देता हूँ. There is a particular departmental store into the US that is known as Target, ठीक है, या Hilton Group hotels का नाम सुना होगा आपने, which is being managed with the help of Paris Hilton, which is a Hollywood celebrity, है ना. So these particular organizations have been targeted, and they get away with the information. Departmental store से क्या ले जाएगा, है, हम आटे दाल के भाव ले जाएंगे या और कुछ ले जाएंगे?
वहाँ तो जो ट्रांजैक्शन है वो भी क्रेडिट कार्ड से और से होता है, और वहाँ पे वो डेटा है वो सेव हो जाता है.
Yes, that's absolutely correct, Prashant sir. I hope, like, sorry for my cough issues. This is not a corona, but yes, due to the cold. So, Target or Hilton Group, any individual who is actually indulged in some financial activities or so, can be a target of those audience. Very recently, you might have heard about Domino's कि जो डेटा था, जहाँ पे जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ, मतलब इंडिया के पर्सपेक्टिव में बोलूं तो डोमिनोज के अंदर जितने भी ऑर्डर्स किए गए थे उसका एक डेटाबेस लीक हो गया था ऑनलाइन, है ना. अब क्वेश्चन फिर से रेज होता है. मैं आपको सिंपली आपकी जो जिज्ञासा है वो बढ़ाना चाह रहा हूँ. हम देखेंगे, आई डोंट थिंक लाइक दिस इज अ वेस्टेज ऑफ टाइम, बट प्रोबेबली इन द कमिंग डेज आई जस्ट शोकेस कि आप अपने मोबाइल फोन या लैपटॉप्स को कैसे सिक्योर करें. But I'm just trying to create a particular platform where we just want to know that what are these things and how these are being affected our life. मैं एक simple बात बोलता हूँ. डोमिनोज में मोस्टली, लाइक, अगर मैं बात करूँ, एक ऐसी एजेंसी है जो कि प्रोबेबली एक महानगरों में ही मिलेगी, लाइक जोधपुर में मिलेगी. प्रोबेबली सर बाड़मेर में डोमिनोज नहीं है, आई सपोज नहीं है. या थैंक यू सर. बट यस, जोधपुर इज हैविंग डोमिनोज, जयपुर इज हैविंग डोमिनोज, उदयपुर इज हैविंग डोमिनोज. And if I'm talking about other part of the country like Allahabad, Kanpur, Varanasi, कुछ हो नहीं रहा है. बट क्या हो रहा है, मेरी जो बेसिक इंफॉर्मेशन है, अगर मैं मान लीजिए मेरे मोबाइल नंबर से मैं सर्च करता हूँ डोमिनोज में, इट विल गिव अवे माय इंफॉर्मेशन कि मैंने कहाँ कब ऑर्डर किया था. दैट कैन क्रिएट अ लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज इन अ पर्सनल प्राइवेट लाइफ ऑफ आवर्स. It can gives away information कि मैं डोमिनोज का पिज्जा अपने ऑफिस में कब ऑर्डर करता हूँ. Probably like I'm working in night shift, or probably like I'm a person who is actually not able to or don't want to provide my personal information like my home address to certain people who are actually harassing me. But yes, my phone number is available, and probably because of that phone number, now they can reach to my particular home, right? You know, there may be a disgruntled lover who wants to just find out the ex address itself, and eventually thus the dominoes is playing a very vital role into it. So although it seems like kind of a funny thing, but yes, absolutely this is kind of a privacy violation of an individual itself, right? You know, Pawan Dugal sir would be there into the coming lectures. I've seen the topics and the ideas, but yes, I'm giving you a thought process. So eventually, like when we're talking about the nation state, they are also indulged into the cyber warfare or spying or extortion or DDoS attacks. You know, spying की बात करते हैं, हमारे पास में एक prism operation आया था. This was like around 6 or 7 years old, when it was identified that probably the US government is having indulged the different agencies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn or Amazon kind of facilities, where whatever the transactions or the communication is being floated between two individuals or the nations, they want to look into each every information so that they can keep track of everyone. मैं आपको एक सिंपल एक क्लासिकल केस स्टडी बताता हूँ. It was during Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Although this story has been floated in various channels across the world, and that time अगर मैं बात करूँ कि facts जो होता था, that was again एक commodity होती थी. Even the Prime Minister office couldn't refuse a particular gift given by the US Embassy. उन्होंने उनको गिफ्ट किया एक fax machine. And fax machine was installed into the PM office, that is PMO. So PMO is a particular crucial office where any information is kind of a confidential information, like what is going to happen into the next 2 or 3 days. अभी जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं, probably on the 1st of February we are going to have the budget. So it is a very crucial information. अगर वो information पहले बार निकल जाए तो क्या होगा? I can make millions out of it, right? और हो सकता है कि भाई मेरा किसी से कोई बात करना है या कम्युनिकेशन चल रहा है लाइक रशिया और सम अदर नेशंस. अब हुआ क्या कि जो पर्टिकुलर मशीन था, दैट वाज हैविंग सम सर्टेन हार्डवेयर, मालवेयर और स्पाईवेयर इंस्टॉल्ड इनटू इट, एंड व्हाटएवर द मैसेजेस आर बीइंग फ्लोटेड ऑनटू दैट फैक्स मशीन was again printed onto a same doppelganger which was installed into the US embassy at चाणक्यपुरी. So आप just imagine करें, आपको फ्री गिफ्ट मिला है, आप उसको यूज कर रहे हैं, and somehow you are not able to guess it out कि भी उस गिफ्ट का क्या hidden truth है पीछे. Although it might be a theory, it might be not an incident occurred, but yes, definitely we can learn out of it. Like nothing is coming free in this world, in this cyber world itself. ठीक है ना? So nation also wants to know about the other nations, what they have been doing. I'm not saying that USA or China or South Korea have been doing into it. Probably the Indian government or some other government would be also indulged in these kind of activities. Because everyone wants to get hold of the information. That is the goal right now, or the power right now. And malwares includes the viruses. When we are talking about the malware infection rate across the web, there are like 1 out of 13 pages would be infected with the malware. These are states, but again, like it varies accordingly. Like when we are talking about the corona time, these may vary like probably like 5 in 3, 13 itself, probably. Emails, now it has on again very rise, like 1 in probably like 20th mail. Every mail is a spam mail, probably infected with the malware or the virus itself. You know? So virus basically attach करता है program or files or disk itself, and it whenever it is executed, it activates and replicates. आप सिंपली आप सब लोगों ने देखा होगा कि आपने शॉर्टकट मालवेयर होता है पेन ड्राइव्स में, आप नॉर्मली क्लिक करते हैं, अंदर फिर से क्लिक करते हैं, नई विंडो खुल जाती है. Eventually that particular folder is .exe, है ना? That is shortcut exe folder था, है ना? So again it varies by the industry and the nation itself. एक सिंपल एक एग्जांपल मैं आपको फिर से कोट करता हूँ यहाँ पे. There was a particular Chinese agency which was actually interested in buying the Coca-Cola subsidiary of that particular part of the world itself, and Coca-Cola was able to sell that particular part to the Chinese counterpart, है ना? तो वहां पे जब negotiations चलते हैं, जब merger और acquisition जब भी होता है, तो negotiation takes a lot of time because eventually they want to know that what are the things they are going to get, what are the things they are going to get at what price also. तो वहां पे एक सिंपल एक स्पेयर फिशिंग अटैक हुआ. मैं आपको बता देता हूँ. फिशिंग आप सबने सुना होगा. फिशिंग मतलब मैंने जाल डाला समुद्र के अंदर और कोई फंस गया, आई डोंट केयर कि भाई वो सीईओ है कि एक कॉमन मैन है या मिडिल क्लास पर्सन है। स्पीयर फिशिंग का मतलब क्या हो रहा है? आई एम ए नोबडी गाय, मैं भाला लेके खड़ा हूं और जो मछली मुझे बड़ी दिखी मैं उसको मारूंगा, है ना? तो उसको मैं अगर क्रिमिनल या साइबर टेक्निकल भाषा में बोलूं तो आई एम एक्चुअली टारगेटिंग ए सम identified person. That means an individual itself. I've identified that individual. Now I'm trying to target that guy. है ना? तो spear phishing के वे से they actually infected a computer of the CEO of a Coca-Cola. Yeah, or probably the MD of that particular person. He is top C of the Coca-Cola companies itself. CEO, CTO, CISO. So the mail actually gave away the information that yes, we are going to be an environmental friendly. So please make a vow. So he clicked on the link to make a vow, and eventually by just clicking on the link he infected his own machine. अब आप सोचिए आपकी मशीन आपको looking like mail से चला गया. Just hold on a second. I would like to share my whole screen, so I'll just start sharing. I'll just open a particular mail. Okay. This is only for the educational purposes only. Don't think like I've tried to hack certain people identity or I can share my screen, right? Yeah. I hope everyone can see my screen here.
Yes, sir.
Can you see this mail ID?
Exactly.
I'm
Look
zooming
like
it out.
nic.in @nic.in.
Yeah. This is Commissioner of Police CP, that is Commissioner of Police Jodhpur, Rajasthan. So this is like kind of a I can create another ID by just looking into this ID, that is like known as OSINT, that is open source intelligence. तो Commissioner of Jaipur की जो ID होगी वो ये ऐसी होगी शायद probably, है ना? But yes, that's not the discussion here. मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि cp-jodhpur-rj@nic.in is an email ID designated for Commissioner of Police Jodhpur. Okay, understood? Okay. Yeah. Can you see now mail? The content of the mail. Dear all, today there will be no classes. Third semester student will not be following this timetable till the further changes. Mobile number. Can Commissioner of Police mail me this kind of mail without any context? No, not at all, right? Looking like this mail has been transferred from Commissioner of Police Jodhpur only because NIC is there. But what you need to do, what you need to look out, first of all, that is the content or the context itself. First thing तो अपने दिमाग में ये आना चाहिए कि Commissioner of Police is not going to give me a mail kind of this thing, है ना? But हो सकता है कि they can mail me that yes, you are invited for an important meeting to be held at Commissioner of Police office on this date, on this particular time itself. Like Prashant sir mailed me out, he called me out for this particular FDP lectures itself. So something like that would be looking like quite a useful, but yes, definitely that is going to be the case. बट यहाँ पे आपको जो ध्यान देने लायक बात थी, आपको दिख रहा है यहाँ पे जो मेल में जो आपको मैं सेलेक्ट कर रहा हूं, जो क्या आ रहा है लिखा हुआ वाया us-imm-node4a000webhost.io, है ना? It looks like kind of a fishy thing because eventually NIC के सर्वर्स यूएस के सर्वर्स के थ्रू कैसे होके आएंगे? Probably this is not what we can intend, probably like this kind of a fishy mail, but the thing is this mail actually comes to my inbox. I tried morning that yes, if I can send a mail like this to showcase all of you, but my account has been logged from this particular website, that is 000webhost.io. Otherwise I would have shown you in a live manner that whatever ID you are mentioning to me, I can just make you mail from that ID, and it would look like probably like Prashant sir would say कि आप president वाली ID से मुझे mail करें, so probably I can do it. So that kind of thing is possible with a single script. And that script doesn't carry a huge amount of line of codes. It is something like 10 different lines. What I've created is basically a single script which actually creates SMTP server, and without verifying the host, I have created my own host. That is the NIC server, and the mail ID is this. So this is kind of a script written in the PHP itself. And then actually, because I'm not sending certain links into it, this particular mail was actually agreed or approved by the Google spams, checkers to put into my inbox itself. ठीक है ना? So that's the thing here. अब मैं आपको कोई भी मेल कर सकता हूं. This is known as email spoofing. ठीक है? मैं similar case आपके मोबाइल के साथ कर सकता हूं. I can call you with any number, whatever you want. I can message you with any number, whatever you want. There was a certain case, I won't give you the name, but yes, there was one person who came to me and asked me कि कल मेरे पास में मेरी बेटी का मैसेज आया, SMS आया कि mother is no more, है ना? अब क्या हो रहा है कि the person is around 75 years old. अब ऐसा मैसेज होगा किसी के लिए आघात हो सकता है. He or she can die, है ना? अब किसको इससे बेनिफिट होगा, वी कैन नॉट इमेजिन, बट यस डेफिनेटली देयर आर हंचेस लाइक प्रोबेबली द जो विल के पार्टनर्स होंगे, प्रोबेबली द बिजनेस पार्टनर्स होंगे, उनको बेनिफिट होगा डेफिनेटली. सो ये कैसे पॉसिबल हुआ? बिकॉज इवेंचुअली लाइक द पर्सन केम टू मी इंक्वायर दैट व्हाट काइंड ऑफ थिंग और द ये कैसी जादूगरी है. So that was the idea, like the person was actually having their Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and all other services enabled all the time. And in mobile phones, when we are talking about the Bluetooth, there is a particular thing which is known as bluejacking, because Bluetooth is not a very secure service, and anyone, if it is for a very longer time available into your vicinity, you can hack it out and then create certain messages, spoof messages, which would be looking like that yes, these messages are being sent to you from a known participant, है ना? अब मेल जो आया था, ये जो I've disabled the mic. Here, like जो message आया था, it was looking like. Shalini ji, I would request if you can put off your mic. Message जो आया था, it was looking like it was coming from the daughter of that person. And जब daughter का phone check किया, कभी उसमें message का कोई ऐसा thread था ही नहीं. So it kind of a thing which actually can happen to anyone. So that is the basic case in the malware. Again, there is a worm which is again sends and replicate the copies of itself from computer to computer. I hope the definitions gives away the basic information, and usually it is also being spread with the help of mail IDs. Social engineering, like Kevin Mitnick, I hope everyone might have heard about the name. He was one of the greatest social engineering hacker. The phone call, like अभी मैं आपको मेरा खुद का individual case बताता हूँ. Like my credit card had gone expired, and eventually like I was supposed to get credit card, but because of my previous location, I couldn't update the my address into the credit card division, and eventually my credit card was not delivered. But yes, this thing was not actually unheard by the hackers or the perpetrators. Actually took advantage of it because they are having their grips onto the delivery channels or so. So I received a call by particular seemingly mobile number from like 63700 or something, and the voice was looking like a particular person who is calling from Jamtara. I hope everyone is aware about the Jamtara. So the person was actually calling me and inquiring me that yes sir, आपका credit card आपको नहीं मिला है, आपका एड्रेस शायद गलत है, या हम आप तक पहुंच नहीं पा रहे हैं, कृपया आप अपना वेरिफिकेशन के लिए डेट ऑफ बर्थ बताएंगे. ठीक है. सो फर्स्ट थिंग वाज व्हाट, वेरिफिकेशन के लिए मेरा डेट ऑफ बर्थ मांग रहे हैं. सो मैंने वेरिफिकेशन के लिए गलत डेट ऑफ बर्थ डाल दिया. मैंने बोला कि मेरी जो डेट ऑफ बर्थ है वो 1 जनवरी 1990 है ना, जबकि उसके पास में ये इंफॉर्मेशन थी ऑलरेडी. और जैसे ही मैंने ये चीज बोली, Probably, just hold on a second. There is an important call. I'll just join you in 1.
रोहित सैन सर, कुछ अगर पूछना चाहते हैं तो पूछें सर, आपका रेज हैंड है।
जी, मैं लेफ्टिनेंट सर से पूछना चाह रहा था कि एक एग्जांपल देके बताएं ऐसे दूसरे फोन से कॉल वाला।
हाँ, अभी एक बार वो फोन कॉल पे हैं।
हाँ, बिजी है। जी जी जी, तो प्रैक्टिकल एक फिशिंग वाला कोई मेल या ये वाला कॉल, क्योंकि अपने पास भी ऐसा चीज आती रहती है, तो एक प्रैक्टिकल से अपने को थोड़ा अच्छा रहेगा, है ना।
हाँ, बस वो उसी को ही डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, लेकिन बस थोड़ा सा क्या है कि एक बार फोन कॉल हो जाए उसके बाद।
जी, चलो ठीक, ओके ओके।
Rohit sir, I heard your query. Definitely, like this was the spoof mail. I would have shown you the same replica if this particular account was not logged. And for these particular, I hope everyone has heard about variety of the fake calls coming from mobile phones. मैं आपको कल दिखाता हूँ. I just received a call from Malawi. है ना? This was there into my mobile phone. Actually, like looking like a call is originating from certain different country, but yes, eventually like the call is being transferred because most of the time, देखिए मालावी करके है लास्ट में, probably like नहीं दिखेगा शायद. hold on second, मेरे को अपनी स्क्रीन पे जो आ रहा है, एक मिनट होल्ड करें.
सर वो डेट ऑफ बर्थ वाला हो गया क्या पूरा?
Pardon?
वो डेट ऑफ बर्थ वाला केस आप अभी डिस्कस कर रहे थे जस्ट बिफोर योर कॉल.
या सो सॉरी, मैं रोहित सर का आंसर मैं देता हूँ. सर डेट ऑफ बर्थ में सिंपली मैंने जैसे ही उनको डेट ऑफ बर्थ मेरा गलत बताया, द पर्सन एक्चुअली स्टार्टेड रशिंग इट आउट. ही सेड ओके सर, आप अपनी ब्रांच से कांटेक्ट कर लीजिएगा, मैं रख रहा हूँ, ठीक है. एंड द पर्सन वाज एक्चुअली रशिंग इट आउट. क्यों, आप बता सकते हैं क्यों? व्हाट वाज द रीजन बिहाइंड इट? क्योंकि अभी चोरी पकड़ी गई. नेक्स्ट थिंग क्या हो रहा है कि आज के डेट में गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने, एमएचए ने एक नई हेल्पलाइन शुरू करी है, दैट इज 155260. इफ यू वांट यू कैन नोट डाउन द नंबर आल्सो, 155260. दैट इज रिलेटेड टू द फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड्स,
साइबर फाइनेंशियल फ्रॉड.
यस. तो 155260 ने क्या करता है कि जैसे ही अगर आपको ऐसा कोई फ्रॉड या कॉल आया है, if I'm going to report that person's intentions and the activity which has been provided and perpetrated, तो क्या होगा कि वो persons की जो real time location है और वो phone number है वो trace किया जाएगा, and eventually the task force would be after that person. So that's the beauty right now. Although this service is not provided across the India itself, there are certain different states, and Rajasthan being one of them, we are really grateful for the Ministry of Home Affairs, which included our state into this kind of beta project itself. So वो पर्सन भाग रहा था क्योंकि अब उसको फोन स्विच ऑफ करना है और अपना दूसरा नंबर जो कि उसने किसी और की आईडी से लिया है, he is going to call some other person. And eventually like आज के डेट में मैं आपको एक सिंपल केस स्टडी बताता हूँ. हम नॉर्मली कहते हैं कि if I'm not onto the digital era or the digital platforms, I am safe, है ना, मैं यूज नहीं कर रहा हूँ, आई एम रियली लाइक अवेयर. फिर भी होता है लाइक I'll tell you one thing, like probably there is a person into the railway, he retired from the GM post. So just imagine, he retired from the GM post, he might be having a huge fund, corpus fund into his account, because eventually like this is a quite higher post itself. Probably just assume that the amount is of 1 crore. And after that he actually joined a Japanese firm into Japan and went away. एंड इवेंचुअली व्हाट ही डिड, अपना फोन जो था वो कीपैड फोन रखा कि भाई मेरा स्मार्टफोन नहीं रखूंगा, और फोन को ऑन रखा, है ना, और went away for Japan and usually like came after 6 months or so and just checked the account, and you won't believe his account was having 40 lakh rupees less. अब कैसे हुआ? देखिए उन्होंने फोन ऑन रखा है, कीपैड वाला फोन रखा है. द इंफॉर्मेशन इज अगेन वेरी वाइटल हियर. व्हाट हैपेंड कि 6 महीने तक वो अकाउंट कभी हैंडल नहीं किया गया. द अकाउंट वाज लुकिंग लाइक ए डोरमेंट अकाउंट. अब फर्दर इंक्वायरिंग में जो आज के डेट में क्या है, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ ई मित्र या जो ऐसे चैनल्स हैं थ्रू विच actually they can inquire about the accounts, not, but yes definitely they cannot operate the accounts, but they can inquire about the accounts. तो देखा कि बंदा जो है 60 प्लस है, 6 महीने से अकाउंट नहीं ऑपरेट किया है, probably this money is lying like an orphan money. So what that perpetrator did, उन्होंने उसी की आईडी को वापस से रीप्रिंट किया और अप्लाई किया फॉर द डेबिट कार्ड इटसेल्फ, एंड सेम टाइम एक नई सिम अप्लाई किया विद द हेल्प ऑफ दोज डेटा इटसेल्फ by just giving money to some other people, and you know it was quite easy to get hold of that particular new sim and applied for debit card as well as applied for change in the number in the banking. अब बैंकिंग में गलती क्या हुई कि आपने जब भी ऐसा कोई काम जो क्रूशियल है आपके बैंक अकाउंट को ऑपरेट करने के लिए किया विदाउट एक्चुअली फिजिकली वेरीफाइंग द आइडेंटिटी ऑफ दैट पर्सन हु इज एक्चुअली पुटिंग अवे दिस इंफॉर्मेशन और द रिक्वेस्ट इटसेल्फ. अब करना कुछ नहीं था. एवरी नाइट दिल गो टू एटीएम मशीन and at 11:55 they'll withdraw 40,000, at 12:05 they'll withdraw 40,000, and like alternate days they'll go and have around 80,000 money out of that particular thing. And just imagine, ये तो चलिए हो सकता है कि 3 महीने बाद में ये कांड हुआ तो 40 लाख ही गए, नहीं तो पूरे 1 करोड़ चले जाते. अब यहाँ पे कहीं भी कुछ भी फॉल्ट नहीं था. What was the fault only? कि भैया मोबाइल फोन के अंदर कभी चेक नहीं किया या रेगुलरली अपने अकाउंट्स को वेरीफाई नहीं किया, है ना. So that way it occurs actually. Like it is not possible like on a single way that you are like actually not being targeted by audience. रोहित जी जो आप बोल रहे थे कॉलिंग का, there are a lot of apps available on Google Play Store and App Stores which actually utilize the VoIP, that is voice over internet protocol, and will look like you have been called onto a regular mobile, but yes you are actually being called through internet, and the number would be spoofed because eventually there are a lot of VoIP servers which can just give you away their numbers whatever they want actually. ठीक है ना. So that is a possibility. Eventually like we need to pay for that actually. So that's why I don't have that particular service being ready here. Otherwise like if I'll have certain payment services I would have shown you that thing. So phishing is again a very important aspect. मैंने रेगुलर आपको एग्जांपल बनाया है. नाइजीरियन जो स्कैम होते थे वो रेगुलरली होते थे. हम हर बार देखते हैं कि आप अपने स्पैम में जाके चेक करेंगे तो प्रोबेबली आप अभी करोड़पति हैं. आपको कभी कोई इंग्लैंड की महारानी आपको कुछ पैसा दे रही हैं, कभी नाइजीरिया से पैसा आ रहा है, कभी यूएसए से पैसा आ रहा है. काउंट करेंगे तो प्रोबेबली इट वुड कम डाउन टू अराउंड 200 डिफरेंट करोड़ रुपीस इटसेल्फ. फार्मिंग इज देयर, लाइक फेक वेब पेजेस, these are like there itself. I just want to rush in because I need to discuss more about the fake news as well. So there are things like rootkits, like hackers are actually buying the rootkits from from dark webs, and eventually they can just install rootkits at your laptop or desktop, and eventually they thus providing you the backdoor entry. You know, backdoor entry is possible with the help of rootkits, and then keystroke loggers are there. Means whatever you are typing, that will be actually transmitted and screenshot and sent to the command and control center itself, and there would be like a hidden user kind of facility available onto your mobile or laptop phone itself, है ना. अभी जो एक बहुत बड़ा स्कैम चल रहा है that is eKYC done by the Paytm, or not the Paytm agencies, but yes on the name of the Paytm or PhonePe itself, because eventually we don't want to go to certain path and want to go and sit into the lines and stand into the lines. We just want to ease ourselves. So eventually while verifying ourselves we try to like install AnyDesk or TeamViewer, जो ये particular apps हैं मोबाइल में, and eventually just giving away our vital information and control to the people of our mobile phones. जो आजकल जो क्लासिकल जो हैक्स हो रहे हैं विदाउट ओटीपी जो आ रहे हैं, एक्चुअली ओटीपी आपको रिसीव हुआ था, बट वो ओटीपी जैसे ही रिसीव हुआ अगले ने डिलीट कर दिया आफ्टर जस्ट सीइंग द ओटीपी इटसेल्फ. उसके अलावा देयर आर सम लाइक मालवेयर्स लाइक Zeus is a malware which actually deletes the message as soon as the message is being received at your end itself. You know, there have been classical case studies where we would able to find out into the mobile forensic like these kind of malwares have been there. ठीक है. Hacktivists की बात करते हैं तो there is a society like Anonymous and they may be working for some ideology or so. There may be some political causes also. When we are talking about the Middle East like Philippines or Israel or some other way, eventually they want to work on some democratical way. Then there is a WikiLeaks which was provided by Julian Assange, है ना? So these are there actually. So there are variety of things and eventually like there are people who actually wants to work on these things. Botnet की बात करते हैं तो these are like there is an attacker. Just for an example, we have mentioned the Russia, and then probably the handler is working in the Bulgaria itself, है ना? And then there are some machines like your laptops or your mobile phones. You are not aware actually. Probably at night your phone is being used for a certain activity which is not supposed to be done by your mobile phones. The victim might be sitting into the United States and then somehow giving away like kind of a DDoS kind of attack, you know. And then this is like you can just you know buy these kind of botnets across the dark web itself, and then they'll provide you signature free or signature less botnets would be provided, and eventually like most of the malware attacks are related to the command and control, means someone is controlling those attacks onto a certain victim itself. So this comes around like 36% of the whole malware attacks across the world itself. ठीक है. Moving on further, ransomware की अगर हम बात करते हैं, that is quite like अभी पेटिया या WannaCry, इसके अलावा खूब सारे वर्जन्स आ गए हैं. Every day you'll see like there are variety of new ransomware arising. आज के डेट में जो नए ransomwares आए हैं वो obfuscated आए हैं. मतलब आप उस ransomware की जो कोडिंग है उसको पढ़ भी नहीं सकते हैं, है ना? सिंपली जैसे मैं कहा कि आपने JSON फाइल देखी होगी या एक XML फाइल देखी होगी. JSON XML को आप अगर मैं उसको obfuscate कर दूं तो you cannot make anything out of it, है ना? मैं आपको एक सिंपल एग्जांपल दिखाता हूं. I hope आपने देखा होगा. See, it will look like this, something like quite a gibberish thing, but eventually while compiling it, it will come out a very useful or some very drastic thing. ठीक है ना? See here, cannot make anything out of it. See here, it looks like quite a gibberish thing, whatever has been mentioned here. But yes, probably like when compiling this thing, probably you'll have something new or very vague, which was not there earlier. Someone has raised the hand. Yes. Ramkaran Yadav ji?
No, by mistake. Actually, it's on.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine then. So ransomwares are there. Eventually, like they have been mentioning the Petya, phone wall. So when you're talking about the ransomwares, more than 56% of the malwares are coming into this category itself. You know, normally like ransomwares में आपको कई बार messages आते हैं you are infected by antivirus or by decryption module itself, है ना? And you have stored some underage pornography, which is like quite an you know crime. हम IT Act की बात करते हैं, so that is again a crime and non-bailable warrant itself. Today only like there was one person in Jodhpur who was arrested for the child pornography posted on the social media itself. So you know, pay a fine or go to the jail, notice from the FBI. These kind of things would be there eventually. But yes, there is a particular website, No More Ransomware Project. If you'll go and search on internet, you'll find this particular website. Most of the ransomwares which are there, their encryption or decryption module would be available on that particular website itself. So like if anyone out of you or your friends or relatives are encrypted or infected with this particular thing, you can disinfect yourself with the help of this particular website. Then there is a new thing which is there, coin mining. Like everyone is into the cryptocurrency, wants to earn something shortcut out of it. Like Bitcoin is quite difficult to mine, but like there are certain cases in the US universities where the people or the academicians also have been indulged into mining the machines itself. ठीक है ना? So whenever like एक particular Coinbase करके malware है, which is actually affecting the Firefox, and eventually my machine was also affected. But yes, what are the effects through which you can identify whether your machine has been affected or not? Usually, like it will slow down your computer most of the time. When we are talking about these things, your batteries or your machine would be overheated. Sometimes your processes would be unusable or halt at certain location itself. So that is there itself. Then there is a key logger. Eventually, like whatever you're typing onto your keyboard would be again transmitted to the command and control itself. So that's why, like when we are talking about these things, the banking industry or the financial organizations does provide you the virtual keyboard. But yes, there are certain sophisticated key loggers which actually provides the screenshot also, or your mouse tracking activity would be noted down also. So whatever your mouse is going and clicking onto a particular link, it will take a screenshot of that particular thing and eventually getting away with the information. So that is there itself. You need to be wary about these things. Trojan was there. Eventually, like मैं बात करता हूँ Aramco industry, which is again a like power industry is there. Petroleum जो है ना वहाँ पे a particular day when there was a holiday, so the whole Aramco computers were wiped down because the Trojan actually works that way. Like I hope everyone might have heard about the story of that Persia and the Trojan, where they actually gave the horse as a like a parting gift that yes, I accept my defeat and I am giving you away this particular horse as a gift. And that night the people actually made fun and celebrated, but somehow the people were sitting into this horse itself. So Trojan actually works in that manner only. Then there are some war drivings and hackings. Like there was a classical case study where the Gonzalez person was actually exposed more than 170 million credit card numbers across the world itself. And eventually he was sentenced to 20-year prison in 2009. 2029 he is going to be released. है ना? So यहाँ पे अगर हम बात करते हैं, the security is being provided by the help of PCI DSS, which is known as Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. है ना? Normally हम देखते हैं कि आपका जो credit card या debit cards हैं वो copy कर लिया गया, because you won't require a physical or even the vicinity would be enough to carry away your information. And that's why RBI has now mandated that every debit or credit card should be having the chip enabled cards, so that the information should be residing on the chip. Whenever there is a physical interaction or a limited vicinity, then only you can get away with this information. Okay. पासवर्ड क्रैकिंग्स की बात करते हैं, डिक्शनरी अटैक्स और ब्रूट फोर्स अटैक्स हम नॉर्मली अपने मोबाइल फोन्स में, लैपटॉप्स में पासवर्ड्स रखते हैं. बट यस, व्हेनेवर वी आर शेयरिंग द और मेकिंग ए पैटर्न आउट ऑफ द इंटरेस्ट और द रिलेटिव्स और द anniversary or birth date, probably like there will be not more than 20 results or permutations. And अगर हम बात करें इस particular password को guess करने में, it won't take more than 5 minutes time. And eventually, like there are certain tools which are created nowadays. Even your burp suit does have some modules which can guess out certain different passwords. Then there is a social engineering. You can accurately identify your passwords manually. It will take not more than 2 minutes itself. Then there is an American dictionary. Probably like there are not more than 80,000 words, or Oxford dictionary. Eventually it will take lesser than 1 second because of your computational power available at your laptop or your mobile phone, है ना? और अगर हम जितना नीचे जाते हैं, your password is actually getting difficult to crack, and it will require this much amount of time into the years. But yes, there are different techniques, like fuzzing technology is there, and sometimes when we are talking about these kind of things, cryptanalysis was there. onto which like there are side channel attacks. We are not actually guessing it out your password, but yes, we are able to get out what computation would result into this much amount of power consumption, and based on that I can guess it out that what should be your password itself. So that kind of sophisticated attacks are not nowadays possible onto the world. Again, there was a classical case study of Stuxnet itself. Stuxnet में अगर हम बात करते हैं, आप normally कोई भी website को जब follow करते हैं या enter करते हैं, so there is a particular website, certifying authority. Like when we are talking about the online SBI, there is a certifying authority which actually gives away the information that yes, this information is true, verified and certified by certain people. So certificate issued to the State Bank of India, but from whom? So it will be verified by DigiCert Incorporation, which is again a CA, that is certifying authority, which can provide. किसी का mic on है.
It's okay now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So this certificate actually एक आपको एक reliability factor provide कराता है. So into that Stuxnet example, what happens कि there were two different certifying authorities, उनके certificates physically चोरी किए गए, and it was developed, removed by US and Israel, and then created a particular look-alike system and hit the Iranian nuclear enrichment power plants and probably damaged more than 1,000 centrifuges. और जो भी थे उसकी वजह से जो उनका न्यूक्लियर जो प्रोग्राम था, it was hindered and escalated itself. So जो सर्टिफिकेट्स हैं जो आपको प्रोवाइड कराते हैं, आइडेंटिटी और वेरिफिकेशन देते हैं, वहां पे एक्चुअली सर्टिफाइंग अथॉरिटीज के थे बट वो चोरी किए गए, एंड इवेंचुअली वो यूज्ड टू इंस्टॉल दिस स्टक्सनेट वॉर्म, और एक ऐसा सिचुएशन क्रिएट किया गया कि हाँ ये दिस सॉफ्टवेयर इज एक्चुअली ए वेरीफाइड वन बाय दिस सीए इटसेल्फ. I won't give the name. You please search on internet. It is available on internet. Stuxnet के सर्टिफिकेट्स कहाँ से चोरी किए गए थे. One was Kaspersky. ठीक है. And more than अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, एक सिंपल एग्जांपल देता हूँ आपको. Government usually pays more than 15,000 or 1,50,000 per bug itself. है ना. अभी very recently हम जब बात कर रहे हैं, we were struggling with COVID. There was a COVID app which was hosted by NIC servers. And eventually there was a particular, hacker from France. He actually claimed on Twitter that yes, I do have information of every person who has registered on COVID itself. And it is going to be the biggest, data breach after Aadhaar that occurred into 2018 itself. I'm not remembering the name, but yes. उसके जो फोटोग्राफ था हैकर का, that was again of anonymous itself, and eventually like the people or the government agencies denied, but yes, that was there itself. Okay, you can just see that even software update supply channels would be again attacked. There may be some loopholes into that particular supply channels or updates. Like आप सबने अभी very recently एक क्या था, एक बहुत बड़ा स्कैंडल हुआ था very recently. Onto that, like supply channel जो था, the whole supply channel was again affected. Even the Microsoft or big Palo Alto, companies were actually T-Mobile जो था, everyone was affected with this thing. It starts with S. I just forgot the name, but yes, that is there. You can search on internet itself. That is there. What I'll do is like I'll just go on to the fake news now. So basic steps अगर हम बात करें safe and secure user practices, you need to better understand the technology first of all, because eventually like you have been using this thing. You have been like regularly working and utilizing these things. Like in India, when we are talking about the demonetization, everyone was able to forced to utilize these digital payment systems. But yes, thus there was no one who was trained enough. That's why UPI related frauds or OTP related frauds are on rise and people have been monetizing out of it. As well as like two-factor authentication, I hope everyone is aware, but yes, two-factor authentication should be must. And nowadays even the RBI also says so, like every banking industry should be forced, if there is a like amount more than 10,000, there should be an OTP which needs to be given on the ATM so that the money should not be delivered more than that. So these are the quite basic steps. Antiviruses, you can use it, but yes, definitely like I've never used antivirus in my systems. If you are aware, if you are regularly wary about these things, definitely you will never infect your systems. Like मैं आपको case बता रहा हूँ, even though I've been regularly updating myself, I was infected with the Coinbase malware itself, but somehow I was able to identify it and disinfect my machine itself. So like while discussing about these things, there are these particular attacks which are possible onto your computer, and eventually like you can use the firewall also. There may be a hardware or software based firewalls, you can use it. Okay? You can use the good passwords, like you can use two unrelated words. We are from that particular part of the world जहाँ पे हिंदी बोली जाती है, तो हम ऐसे वर्ड्स को भी यूज कर सकते हैं जैसे कि जो हिंदी में है, जैसे मैं बोलूं लगातार, मैं उसको इंग्लिश में लिख सकता हूँ बुखार, है ना. आप उसके साथ में कुछ पैटर्न बना लें एंड देन यू यूज द पासवर्ड्स. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम लाइक हम एक एग्जांपल देते हैं कि पासवर्ड शुड नॉट बी easy to remember, but yes, definitely what you can do is you can create a password with the help of two unrelated words and putting certain kind of pattern into it which is known to you only. Like you never discuss that, divulge that particular pattern even in your dictionary or your diary itself. You write only these things rather than everything. Yeah, that is there. So password length agar hum baat kare, so that is like there are standards, CIS standards are there, PCI DSS standards are there. They usually recommends the what should be the password policy itself. Someone says 60 days mein aapko change karna chahiye, someone says 90 days mein. Eventually, what is the reason behind it? Probably if someone is trying to brute force your machine or your password, it should be not crackable in this amount of time, probably. ठीक है ना? So that is there. Moving on further, मैं आपको थोड़ा सा फेक न्यूज पे डिस्कस करता हूँ. ये एक स्क्रीनशॉट है, ट्वीट है बेसिकली. Like this tweet was actually given on to कि भैया जो probably the Jama Masjid है in Delhi, it is not paid the amount which was coming around 4 crore rupees. There was a particular fake website which floated this news, and eventually Republic जो एक TV news channel है, they sent their team to verify there into the night कि यार यहाँ पे light क्यों नहीं है, but they couldn't verify it. उन्होंने ध्यान भी नहीं दिया कि जामा मस्जिद में लाइट रात को क्यों होगी. एक जो नमाज अदा हो गई है शाम की और उसके बाद में वहाँ कोई नहीं है, जो वहाँ के जो भी पर्सन है वो सब घर जा चुके हैं. उन्होंने ये भी नहीं देखा कि जामा मस्जिद के जो बाहर का बोर्ड है उस पर लाइट जल रही है. एंड दे स्टार्टेड फ्लोटिंग इट आउट कि प्रोबेबली इमाम बुखारी जो वहाँ के जो हेड हैं, they were not able to buy put the money onto the electricity bill, but yes, they were able to buy luxurious cars. But somehow it becomes a very embarrassing situation because other channels verified it in a very efficient manner and eventually get away with this information. Similarly, ये हमने discuss किया ही था. This is again a very classical case study जहाँ पे there was one Ivy League इनका नाम मैं भूल रहा हूँ. इनको क्या है कि she was a particular journalist and then she received a particular mail from a Ivy League universities like Oxford that yes, you have been invited as a emeritus professor there. So what she did, उन्होंने अपना सब कुछ दाव पे लगा के and she started to work for that organization. And probably like while she was ready to just leave the India, she received a message or mail from Dean of Oxford that yes, I never sent you the mail or invitation for professor here. So somehow like these people are like also who are actually aware, regularly following it, and then thus they becomes an easy target for doing that. As well as like there is this video which is actually claiming it to be from Zuckerberg, but would you believe Prashant sir, can you listen to the voice also?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Yeah.
Not from your computer audio is not coming basically.
It's not coming, right?
Yes, computer audio is not coming.
Okay. Probably like I have joined from some other different channels, but I'll put this video into the chat box so that everyone can just. Do we have the chat box here?
Chat box is basically disabled.
Okay. So that's fine.
But as you are a presenter, I think you might able to use the chat box.
No, it's not there actually.
Not there.
No.
Okay.
But time is less. But so what I'll do is like I'll just tell you, like this video is just showcasing that Zuckerberg is telling that probably there is a huge issue with the Facebook and the privacy. I'm telling you the truth, but yes, this was never being spoken by the Zuckerberg itself. And there is like these kind of videos are nowadays there, and you know these kind of websites like provide you the like you can choose the video and choose the image, and somebody else would be speaking, and but yes, the video would be looking like probably like Amitabh Bachchan is speaking, है ना? So that is there nowadays. There are like deepware.ai. You can just check on that particular website. You can just verify whether this deepfake video is there. You know, nowadays there are lot of crime on coming onto the every individual कि आपको unknown call आता है video call from some other people, है ना, और आपका जो फोटोग्राफ है या वीडियो आपका ले लिया जाता है एंड फिर आपको ब्लैकमेल किया जाता है कि बिकॉज आपके वीडियो को मैंने पोर्नोग्राफिक कंटेंट में चेंज कर दिया है एंड नाउ यू आर लुकिंग लाइक यू आर टॉकिंग टू सम सर्टेन some other person who is actually indulged into the sexual activity, and then because of our social image or so, we actually are forced to give up the money itself. So iska basic jo idea hai, that is like you can just go on to the cybercrime portal which is there and complain onto this portal, and somehow like you need to be strong enough, like if this kind of video is floated also, you need to just speak and verify that yes, this is not me, actually this kind of video has been created fakely. So that is there. Now the last but not least, that is like this case study I want to discuss. Now there are only 5 minutes remaining, but again I'll give you a thought process so that you can discuss it afterwards. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे जो एक केस हुआ था, it initiated with Bhima Koregaon suspect laptop, है ना? So this was the person, this is known as Rona Wilson. He was arrested in June 2018 because of some Bhima Koregaon case where they have like assembled and discussed, and there was some violence. Eventually क्या हुआ कि उसमें there was one activist known as Rona Wilson. He was actually arrested and was found that कि इनके लैपटॉप में ऐसा काफी सारा material है which proves that he was with some Naxalite organizations and was indulged in these kind of activity. But again, like this case actually turns like a new thing process into the last 10 months or so, into which like the Washington Post, this is again becoming an international issue कि जो ये particular जो laptop था इसको इन्होंने एक third party से फिर से check करवाया, which is a Massachusetts based forensic firm known as Arsenal Consulting. And eventually like it was found out that this laptop is infected with the malware, and whatever the content was confiscated into the laptop of Rona Wilson was actually planted. What does it mean? Probably the Rona Wilson never wrote those articles, but yes, somebody else planted onto his laptop so that it looks like into the forensic analysis prima facie कि ये Rona Wilson ने लिखा है. So now just see the level of sophisticated way of attack onto your laptop or your mobile phone, that yes, someone can else plant onto your mobile phone or laptop any like unverified documents or literature, and thus giving away like a fact like probably you are indulging in some anti-national or anti-terrorist activities or so. So this kind of activities gives away like a thought process, and eventually like it was there into the picture like probably like you might have heard about the news from the newspapers or news channels, like there was a Pegasus spyware which was from Israel firm, and still the investigation is ongoing. So that there was not a single person who was targeted, but yes, there are like n different people who were thought to be an adversary or a challenge for the certain organization. Those all people were spied. Even like we usually say that Apple phone or some updated phones are like secure enough to be used, and eventually like while we are making some like WhatsApp calls or Telegram calls, we are not being targeted. Definitely you're wrong here. That is like a possibility because of these kind of Pegasus spywares, because Pegasus was using some zero-day vulnerabilities which were still not disclosed into the public domain itself. So just a thought process to all of you here, like ऐसे Pegasus तो वो हो गया कि जो कि आज अनर्थ हो गया है, मतलब ये दिख गया है या दिखा दिया गया है into the public domain. But yes, there are a lot of spywares which are working till the date, and this is SolarWind tha. SolarWind was the name, which was the spyware which affected a lot of companies across the world. So any questions, queries from the audience side while giving away these informations? Usually like हम fake news की बात करते हैं, so there are a lot of channels through which you can just verify whether the fake news is there. And in fake news, most of the time when we are talking about the fake news, there are a lot of Telegram channels.
Hello.
Yeah, sure, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
हेलो
रामकरण जी, आपकी आवाज आ रही है, बोलिए सर। रामकरण जी प्लीज बोलिए।
हेलो सर।
हाँ जी बोलिए सर।
सर अर्जुन जी, आई हैव वन प्रॉब्लम। Sure, actually I got a mail from Asia Education Summit for giving the award to 2022. So he is constantly putting pressure कि you just fill the nomination form by sending a link. So should I click that link, or should I confirm the authenticity of that mail? So how I can ensure the authenticity of that mail, whether it is fake mail or authentic one?
सर देखिए, यहाँ पे दो चीज़ें हैं विच इज़ एट वर्क राइट नाउ। लाइक मैं अगर बात करूँ एकेडमिक फ्रेटर्निटी में, आज के डेट में जैसे हम जब बात करते हैं API कोर्स की, तो हमें जो पर्टिकुलर ये जो अवार्ड्स हैं, दिस गिव्स अवे सम नंबर्स। देयर आर सम ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस विच आर एक्चुअली इलीगली डूइंग इट कि भाई आप फॉर्म भरें, आई विल आस्क यू द मनी इन अ लेटर पार्ट एंड इवेंचुअली यू विल बी गिवन सर्टेन अवार्ड्स। एंड समटाइम्स दीज आर फेक इनफ कि भी बेसिकली आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन वो आपसे गैदर करना चाह रहे हैं एंड देन प्रोबेबली इन्फेक्टिंग योर सिस्टम्स। आप उसको इंडिविजुअली विदाउट क्लिकिंग ऑन द लिंक, यू कैन जस्ट सर्च ऑन इंटरनेट what are the feedbacks on to this particular award. Is it a prestigious award? Like very recently it was floated onto the internet that yes, our Prime Minister has won the UNESCO Best PM award, although there was nothing like this kind of award across the world itself. But yes, this news was floated across news channels, social media platforms, onto WhatsApp or some other news channels and social platforms. Very recently, like कल मुझे एक मेल आया, WhatsApp आया, basically related with the UP elections itself, that this is the case and you need to send out all the laborers to the UP so that they can save the UP for going into the wrong hands. I'm not claiming it to be of certain party, but yes, these kind of things are there. So normally क्या होता है कि जब आप कोई भी ऐसी information या आती है, if you can do a physical verification, that's great. If you can do the third party verification, that would be again a great thing. Third party verification means like आज के डेट में even the websites can be made faulty. A fake website can be created in no time itself. आप मैं बताऊं, Shopify पे एक website है, उससे related इतनी websites बनती हैं and every day people usually like tends to fall for those kind of websites कि भी आपको, मान लीजिए मैं एक simple case बताता हूँ. There was a police official. He came to me and asked me कि सर मेरा एक चश्मा मैंने ऑर्डर किया था 1000 रुपए का, रेबन का, and रेबन never comes into below 1000 rupees, कि मेरे को चश्मा नहीं आया। मैंने कहा चश्मा कभी नहीं आएगा सर, वो वेबसाइट फेक थी, है ना। तो वेबसाइट्स की भी ऑथेंटिसिटी आप बाय जस्ट मेलिंग देम आउट और रीचिंग टू द पर्सन हु, अब देखिए एक वेबसाइट ऐसी हो सकती है जिसमें आपको कहें कॉन्टेक्ट हियर, but they are never divulging the like individual identity. Simply आपको मोबाइल नंबर दे रहे हैं या मेल आईडी दे रहे हैं, but they are not putting कि कौन उस कमेटी के अंदर है, कौन उस उस जो पुरस्कार वितरण समारोह है उसमें कौन कौन आ रहा है, वो नहीं है ना. मैं अभी नाम नहीं लूंगा, but yes, these kind of websites are there. There are activities, organizations are into the public domain. वो आपको पैसे लेके कुछ ऐसा ऑनररी डिग्री दे देंगे, and eventually like we are like duped with these things, और even like उनको accept भी कर लिया जाता है somehow. So these are there actually, but we need to verify it very thoroughly. You can ask the feedback from your peer group itself, like whether you have received. I usually receive these kind of mails on a regular basis. एक IA2A करके organization है, जैसे आपने बोला Asia Pacific. Even like I am handling my university regular जो general ID है, that is info@police-university. So ऐसे मेल रोज आते हैं कि VC सर आपको मैं बुला रहा हूँ USA, ब्रिटेन, आपको प्राइज दिया जा रहा है, ग्रीन पीस प्राइज दिया जा रहा है, ग्रीन एनवायरमेंट प्राइज दिया जा रहा है. Although these are fake mails, eventually like ऐसे जैसे जर्नलिस्ट जैसे ये मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, these kind of people who actually fall prey to these kind of forgeries, होता कुछ नहीं है. Basically they want to derail from your regular project or daily activity itself. That's the motive here, है ना. And they want to get away with certain money also sometimes, or probably they want to infect your system so that they can keep a track of yours. मैं कह रहा हूँ academics के अंदर अगर मान लीजिए मैं कोई particular sensitive topic पर research भी कर रहा हूँ और मेरी publishing से पहले वो अगर किसी और के पास चला जाए, what would happen? They can publish that particular paper on behalf of them, and I cannot claim कि ये मेरा paper था. That is IPR theft. ठीक है? Correct. So those are there actually. Yeah. Thank you, sir. So I'm really thankful to the organizers, Prashant sir, and GPC principal, and the AICTE team and ISTE team. And yesterday also I was there in the inaugural sessions. Could see that this program has been designed in a very much vigor and much thought process itself. So many congratulations to the organizers itself and to the participants who are attending this session. And my best wishes to the all, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Prashant sir, anything else?
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I would like to invite my colleague Roshan Jain sir to conclude the session so that any people who have attended, afterwards, so they can have some insight about your detailed session, sir.
Sir.
Mr. Roshan. No. Yes, go ahead, sir.
पॉलिटेक्निक महाविद्यालय की तरफ से आयोजित किया जा रहा है. आज दूसरे दिन इस टेक्निकल सेशन में हमारे साथ में सरदार पटेल यूनिवर्सिटी के जुड़े जिन्होंने सिक्योरिटी, डेस्कटॉप सिक्योरिटी, मोबाइल सिक्योरिटी, फेक न्यूज के बारे में डिटेल डिस्कस की. उन्होंने इस पहलू पर एक मीटिंग किया कि बेसिकली चाहते क्या है, वो आपसे आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन चाहते हैं ताकि उसको शेयर करके आपकी आइडेंटिटी को खड़ा कर सके. और बहुत बार केसेस में उनका मनी माइंड ही रहता है, क्या कहते हैं आपके अकाउंट से क्या कहते हैं मनी को विड्रॉ कर सके. सर ने सेशन को बहुत डीपली किया, कॉन्टेक्ट से और डिफरेंस को बताया. डिफरेंट क्राइम वेयर अटैक्स, मालवेयर्स और इनकी विस्तृत जानकारी दी. और आपने जो प्रैक्टिकल मुद्दे आपके लाइफ में आए, जो भी फेक ईमेल्स आए, आपको फेक मैसेजेस आए, उसका लाइव दिखाकर लोगों को बताया कि यदि आपको कभी भी फेक ईमेल्स आते हैं तो आपको उसका रूट चेक करना चाहिए. क्या इस तरह के मैसेजेज कंसर्न बॉडी से इस तरह के मैसेजेज क्या कभी आ सकते हैं, आपको उसका रूट चेक करना चाहिए. क्योंकि आज के ज़माने में सब लोग डिजिटल उपयोग कर रहे हैं, तो मेल तो सबको आते रहते हैं, बट उसको ऑथेंटिसिटी के साथ चेक करना हमारा कर्तव्य है ताकि हम इन साइबर अटैक, साइबर फ्रॉड से बच सकते हैं. कल के सेशन में I4C के डिप्टी सेक्रेटरी भी हमसे जुड़े थे, उन्होंने भी जो साइबर क्राइम का हेल्पलाइन नंबर है हमसे डिस्कस किया था, साइबर क्राइम के नेशनल पोर्टल को भी डिस्कस किया था। आज भी आपने उसके बारे में जानकारी दी। मुझे इससे लग रहा है कि इस हेल्पलाइन नंबर और इस पोर्टल की जनमानस में जागरूकता बढ़ती जा रही है, ताकि साइबर फ्रॉड के केस में इस हेल्पलाइन नंबर का हमें तुरंत इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए ताकि क्या कहते हैं, सामने वाले को ट्रैक किया जा सके और आप उस फ्रॉड से जितना जल्दी हो फ्री हो सके। सर ने कल एक फिगर भी बताया था कि पिछले 6 महीनों में 35 करोड़ रुपए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स की इस I4C ने क्या कहते हैं कलेक्ट करवाए हैं और ये प्रक्रिया और आगे चल रही है। सर ने अपने डिस्कशन में जो भी मुद्दे लिए, भारत के ज्वलंत मुद्दे, यहाँ की फेक न्यूज के साथ साथ मिडिल ईस्ट, रशिया, यूएस कंट्री, उधर भी यदि इस तरह की चीजें हो रही है तो अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड के एग्जांपल्स को डिस्कस करके हमारे जो टेक्निकल एजुकेशन और यूजीसी के जो टीचर्स हैं उन सबको अवेयर किया। और जब एक शिक्षक इन चीजों से अवेयर होगा तो वो अपने स्टूडेंट्स को भी इन चीजों के बारे में अवेयर करेगा और स्टूडेंट्स आगे फर्दर अपने परिवार वगैरह सोसाइटी को भी अवेयर कर पाएंगे। तो मेरी दृष्टि में आज का ये सेशन काफी यूजफुल रहा है, उम्मीद करता हूं। और आप इसी तरीके से पूरे इस 1 वीक के STC FDP प्रोग्राम में हमसे कनेक्ट रहेंगे, बीच बीच में अपनी ये बात भी रखते रहेंगे। आप आए, आपने अपना कीमती समय पॉलिटेक्निक महाविद्यालय बाड़मेर के लिए दिया, उसके लिए मैं आपका तहे दिल से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सर।
यदि किसी पार्टिसिपेंट का कोई क्विक क्वेश्चन है तो आप एक बार जल्दी से रख सकते हैं, उसके पश्चात हम ब्रेक लेंगे लगभग हमारा 20-25 मिनट का। यदि किसी का कोई प्रश्न हो, डियर पार्टिसिपेंट प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ एंड आस्क फॉर ए क्विक क्वेश्चन आंसर राउंड।
Sir, I would request if anyone wants to connect with me afterwards also, you please share the mail ID and connections, the contact details, so we can do that as well.
Okay, I will add you into our actually official WhatsApp group also. So sir, if there would be any queries, any questions, so you can also undo that also, sir.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you.
There is some question is there from Mr. Ramesh Kumar Dhanak and Pulit Malhotra ji, and I'm just allowing their mic. Yes, Ramesh ji, please ask your question.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning, sir.
सर, जो SMB पोर्ट है हमारा 445, तो उसको अगर क्लोज करें तो क्या सर्विसेज हमारी अफेक्ट रहेगी? क्योंकि मोस्ट वनरेबल जो पोर्ट है हमारा वो 445 है, SMB जो पोर्ट माइक्रोसॉफ्ट का है।
जी सर,
इसके लिए आप कोई निर्देश दें सर।
मैं सर आपको बताऊं, जो वानाक्राई जो हुआ था, दैट वाज विद द हेल्प ऑफ द वल्नरेबिलिटी SMB ओनली। फॉर दैट एक्चुअली Windows has posted and provided the patch for even Windows 7 also. So even जो SMB services हैं वो जब तक utilize नहीं होनी है, for that time the service is being by default disabled, है ना। Normally हम कहते हैं कि SMB को जब तक आपको यूज नहीं करना क्यों यूज करें। That's what the reason was कि WannaCry actually spread a lot, क्योंकि they never could आइडेंटिफाई और एनविजन कि ये पर्टिकुलर जो सर्विस है वो कभी एक्सप्लॉइट की जा सकती है। एंड यू नो इट वाज देयर इनटू द डे लाइट इन द अर्लियर टाइम आल्सो, बट एज सून एज दिस पर्टिकुलर वल्नरेबिलिटी वाज एक्सप्लॉइटेड बाय द WannaCry ransomware, this came to the light itself. Yes, we need to secure that service as soon as possible. So they did it with the help of patching and somehow giving away that yes, SMB is not used, so by default it should be shut down itself, है ना। तो बैकग्राउंड में जो प्रोसेसेस होते हैं उसके लिए पैचेस ऑलरेडी आ चुके हैं। इफ यू अपडेट योर सिस्टम, ऑटोमेटिकली योर सर्विसेज जो SMB से अफेक्टेड है, इट वुड बी कमिंग इनटू दैट पर्टिकुलर कॉन्फ़िगरेशन वेयर यू नीड नॉट टू वर्क एंड वरी अबाउट द SMB पोर्ट एंड द सर्विसेज इटसेल्फ। ठीक है।
एक्चुअली में 139 जो पोर्ट है नेट बायोस का, उसका रिप्लेसमेंट है जरूर ना।
यस यस।
दोनों पोर्ट सेम वर्क करते हैं, तो व्हाई वी आर यूजिंग 445?
सर देखिए, सर्विस एक्सपेंडेबिलिटीज हर किसी में होती हैं. लाइक व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट एफटीपी, till the date we have been using 20 and 20 for two different things, although there has been SFTP, VSFTPD. so ये हम कहते हैं कि extensions के लिए जो नए नए चीजें आ रही हैं, because 1024 तक हमारे पास में एक specified registered ports है. Afterwards till 65535 we are having the n number of ports. Even though onto that also, when we are talking about torrents or some peer-to-peer channels applications, there are certain specified port numbers being used. So that way, actually, like for extending the services, these ports have been used. Instead of 139, they have been using the 445 also.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One more, Puneet ji has been raising the hand.
Yes, sir.
नमस्ते सर.
सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है सर, वो एक रिसर्च पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से है कि जैसे कोई ऐसी पर्टिकुलर वेबसाइट है जो हमारे मतलब कंट्री लेवल पे या अदर कंट्री लेवल पे जो ये पब्लिश करती हो कि जो अब तक रैंसमवेयर, स्पाईवेयर या मॉलवेयर अब तक जो मार्केट में बहुत ज्यादा तबाही मचा चुके हैं, उनके बारे में कुछ जानकारी जैसे कि एज ए केस स्टडी वो पब्लिश करती हो, ऐसी कोई वेबसाइट है सर जो पोर्टल जो
मैं आपको बता दूं सर, जैसे मैंने आपको एक नो मोर रैंसमवेयर का नाम लिया था, है ना. सो दैट इज अ प्रोजेक्ट रन बाय द इंडिपेंडेंट एजेंसीज. और उसके अलावा भी अगर आपको मान लीजिए कि चाहिए, सो यू कैन जस्ट, दिस इज द वेबसाइट nomorransom.org. Yeah, this is a website. Onto this you actually can find decryption tools, and lot of ransomwares would be there. And eventually एक वेबसाइट है, UCB है शायद, ये कनाडा की वेबसाइट है. मोस्टली देयर आर सम academic organizations where you can find out the data sets. If you can get me connected afterwards individually, we can provide you the links. I'm not memorizing it, but ये CICDOS ऐसा कुछ है. I'll just see to it. It's not coming into there.
No, you can tell me later on.
Yeah, that is there. है ना. So यहाँ पे क्या है, ये रहा देखिए, UNB, सॉरी मैं भूल गया, यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ न्यू डनब्रिज के. So this particular website is having n number of data sets, है ना. यहाँ पे data sets, ये इतने सारे data sets हैं, malware के हैं, darknet के हैं, Android malwares के हैं, DDoS evaluation sheets हैं. So this is not only a single website, there are n number of different websites which can provide you the data sets. Eventually, most of the academicians who are actually indulged in these kind of activities, you can just download the papers. They will mention also where they have searched the data sets. And then there is a Kaggle website, KAGGLE, which is actually known for the data sets providing actually. So you can just download the malwares and ransomwares from those particular sites. But I would suggest you to use the sandboxing technique to work upon the malwares and ransomwares. Otherwise, you will be infecting yourself. So please do take care of that.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
okay,
sir.
fine. Thank you, sir.
So once again, thank you, Lieutenant Arjun sir, for your really insightful session, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
much. Have a
nice
nice day to all of you, sir. Bye-bye, sir. I'll be leaving, sir.
Yes,
Thank you,
definitely, sir. So जितने भी participants हैं, उनसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि लगभग हमारा 15-20 मिनट का ब्रेक रहेगा. हम वापस 12:15 बजे के करीब वापस जुड़ेंगे. तो तब तक आप अपना ऑन होल्ड पे रख सकते हैं. अपनी जो मीटिंग है लगभग 12:15 पर हम इसको वापस शुरू करेंगे. थैंक्स.